Hey everyone, I've recently completed Bloodborne, the Game of the Year edition, and so to celebrate how much I loved this game, I wanted to compile a top 5 list of the toughest bosses. Please note, this doesn't include the DLC bosses, because if it did, the list would practically only consist of the DLC bosses. They were that crazy, believe me. So enjoy! Alright, so in at number 5, we'll kick things off with Father Gascoigne. Okay, so I have to clarify, even though I beat this boss on my first attempt, I can fully acknowledge that it was a complete fluke. The fight was messy, I went through almost all of my healing items, and I'll just admit that I got lucky. It was a wake-up call though. I could tell this guy was tough and that for only the second boss in the game I needed to step things up. In a second playthrough I'll definitely be looking to parry. Vicar Amelia is number 4. What's funny about Bloodborne is that depending on people's playstyles, someone's definition of a hard boss might be someone else's definition of an easy boss. I've heard a lot of people think Amelia is pretty easy, but for me it was a bit of a difficulty spike, to be honest. She's got a lot of hair, which made it hard to track her movements, plus that healing phase. Any boss that relies a bit on items such as the numbing mist, for those of you who aren't aware, numbing mist is an item that prevents an enemy from healing. I imagine it's mainly used for PvP, but for this boss you really do need it. So relying on a kind of finite item such as that essentially was part of the reason why it was tough. And yeah, another wake-up call, definitely. In at number 3 is Rom the Vacuous Spider. I'll go against the grain here and say that Rom was one of my better fights. I've heard from a lot of players that they hate this fight. They hate this boss. But I quite liked it. It was a long fight, yes, but I knew what I had to do. It was just a case of my brain and my hands cooperating with each other. So if I ever died to this boss, it was 100% my own fault. You know, you had to keep focused, you had to keep your wits about you. And the boss was fairly simple, it didn't have a lot of moves and it telegraphed very clearly, so it was a satisfying fight. Tough, but satisfying. So yeah, thumbs up. In at number 2 is Gehrman. I went into this thinking he would be a typical hunter, and parrying was always the best strategy for hunters. However, I could not parry Gehrman for the life of me. I'm sure it's possible, but I just couldn't do it. So this made this fight incredibly fast and hectic and crazy. He's basically a souped up version of Gascoigne. Fun fight, and probably, quite honestly, the best environment. The burning building in the background whilst running around the white flowers. Beautiful, beautiful fight. Okay, last but certainly not least, number 1 goes to Shadow of Yharnam. Yes, a fairly early boss fight, but for me, this was a head scratcher. And why? Because I've never been that great at tracking more than one enemy, and in this there's 3. They hit hard and have insane range. To top it off, their final phase summons Hydra snakes and can completely swarm you. Yeah, that was a nice surprise. Thanks, From Software. Alright, so that's my list. It's pretty subjective and people may wildly disagree. If you're wondering why the Blood-Starved Beast isn't there, then this is my full disclosure, okay? Blood-Starved Beast is and was the only boss I summoned an NPC for. I'm ashamed. Particularly because I managed through the whole game, including the DLC, without ever having to do this again. Why did I do it? I was excited to see the summon sign. It was the first time I'd seen one in the game and I wanted to try it out. I regret this a lot, believe me, but hey, all the more reason for a second playthrough of this fantastic game. I recommend this so much. If you like Dark Souls and you haven't played this yet, then I don't know why you're watching, but go ahead and play it. It's great, phenomenal. Thumbs up. And get through that DLC too, because it's, wow, so satisfying. It was great. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.